So I want to start today with a quote that Dr. Andrew Maxwell threw up on the screen during the Week 4 lecture. I think it just completely undermines how most of us operate. It's from John Dewey. We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience.
It's the perfect way to frame where the students are in the Tech Connect course right now. They've spent the last 3 weeks just sprinting, building robots, coding AI, welding steel. They have plenty of experience.
Right.
But if they don't stop and actually look at what they've built and, more importantly, why, that experience is, basically useless.
And that's the hard pivot of Week 4. We are moving from the fun part, the engineering features, to the excruciating part.
The user needs.
User needs. It feels like that moment in a movie where the music just stops and the lights come on.
It really is a cold shower for a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, you fall in love with your solution. You love the gears, the code, how it works.
Sure.
But this week, Maxwell is forcing them to ask, does anyone actually care? And maybe more to the point, will anyone pay for it?
The theme is disruption. But I feel like that word has been, beaten to death. Every startup pitch deck I see claims to be disrupting something.
Oh, yeah. We're disrupting the sock industry.
Exactly. We're disrupting toast. But Maxwell was pretty strict about the definition, specifically leaning on Clayton Christensen's work.
He was, and this is where most people get it wrong. Disruption isn't just making things better.
Okay.
Real disruption usually starts by making things worse.
Which is the part that I think breaks an engineer's brain. Why would I launch a product that is objectively worse than what's on the market?
Because worse usually means cheaper. It means more accessible. I mean, Christensen's definition is basically that disruption happens when you offer a product with maybe 80% of the performance.
Okay, 80%.
But at 20% of the cost.
So you're not competing for the high-end customer at all. You're competing for the people who can't even afford to be in the market.
Exactly. You're competing against non-consumption. And
Okay.
this is why the incumbents, the big giants like Blockbuster or GM, they never see it coming.
Right.
They look at this cheap, crummy little startup and say, well, our customers would never buy that garbage. And they're right. Their current customers won't.
But everyone else will.
Everyone else will. And by the time that startup improves the product from crummy to pretty good,
The giant is already dead.
that's the outsider advantage. Incumbents are trapped. I mean, Blockbuster's the classic example, but let's look at why.
It wasn't that the executives were stupid.
Not at all. It's that their biggest asset, thousands of physical stores, suddenly became their biggest liability.
Right, because if you're Netflix, you don't have to pay rent on 5,000 strip mall locations. You just buy stamps.
And it goes deeper than the balance sheet. It's psychological. If your entire career, your bonus structure, your whole company culture is built around managing stores,
So yeah, pivot.
you can't pivot to streaming without basically firing yourself. You become paralyzed by your own success.
The lecture had this great historical detour to the UK printing industry, the typesetters. These guys were the kings of the blue-collar world.
Oh, yeah. Highly skilled, highly paid. They were the only ones who knew how to physically arrange the metal type for newspapers.
They held all the cards.
All of them. And then digital printing shows up. And it didn't just change the workflow.
It completely nuked their leverage.
That's what disruption does. It doesn't just change the product. It shifts the power dynamics of a society. But my favorite example of adapting to this was the veterinarians.
The vets in the early 1900s. I love this one because it totally reframes how you even define a business. So it's 1900. You're a vet. Your entire income comes from treating horses.
And not because people catch horses as pets, right? The horse was the engine of the economy. It was the delivery truck, the taxi, the tractor.
If the horse got sick, the economy stopped.
Yep. Then Henry Ford comes along with the Model T. And suddenly, the engine doesn't get sick. It breaks down, sure. But you need a mechanic for that, not a doctor.
So if I'm a vet in 1910, I'm looking at the automobile and thinking, well, that's it. My profession is over.
And many of them probably did think that. But the smart ones, they realized something crucial. They asked, what is my core competency?
Is it keeping transportation running?
No, it's medical care for animals.
So they pivoted to cats and dogs.
Which is wild because before the car, small animal medicine wasn't really a market. People didn't spend a lot of money on doctors for dogs.
So the disruption of the horse industry actually created the pet industry we know today.
It did. And that's the key, right? The pivot wasn't, how do I save the horse business?
It was, where else can I apply this skill?
Which brings us directly to the students in week 4. I mean, they are right in the middle of this existential crisis.
They've built these technologies, And now they're trying to find their cats and dogs.
They need to find a market that actually exists.
Let's talk about Matey's project, the AI language interpreter. The tech itself is so impressive, it uses AI to translate sign language into spoken text in real time.
The tech is brilliant. But the initial business plan was a classic trap. He wanted to build a universal translator. Anywhere, anytime, any dialect.
Which sounds noble, but from a technical standpoint, that seems like a nightmare. Sign language has dialects, facial expressions change the meaning, trying to solve all of that at once.
It's impossible. You'd spend 10 years in R&D and just run out of money. So the class pushed him to narrow it down. Don't solve communication.
Solve what?
Solve airport announcements.
That is such a specific slice. Why airports?
Well, think about the data. Airport announcements are incredibly standardized. Flight 202 is now boarding. Gate change to C4.
So the vocabulary is limited, the context is fixed.
Exactly. The AI doesn't need to understand poetry or sarcasm. It just needs to know about luggage and boarding passes.
So by narrowing the scope, the project goes from impossible sci-fi dream to a viable product we can sell to United Airlines tomorrow.
It's that paradox of convergence. You have to think smaller to get bigger.
Speaking of thinking differently about engineering, let's look at the Delta Robot project.
This was the monolithic design project.
I have to admit, monolithic design with compliant transmission sounds like something out of a Star Trek manual. I'm assuming monolithic just means one piece.
You got it. Instead of assembling a robot arm out of 50 distinct metal parts with screws and bearings, you 3D print the whole thing as one solid chunk of flexible material.
And compliant transmission is the fancy word for it bends.
It bends where it needs to bend, like a plastic ruler. But here's the disruption angle. Is this robot more precise than a standard industrial arm?
Probably not.
Is it stronger?
Right.
Maybe not. But it is drastically cheaper.
No assembly required. No maintenance on the joints because there are no joints.
It's that 80-20 rule again. It opens up automation to small businesses that can't afford a $100,000 QCO robot arm.
Then we have my favorite pivot of the week. Parastu's mold-free walls. This is a masterclass in branding.
It really is.
I mean, the product is just lightweight steel framing for houses. If you try to sell me steel framing, I'm asleep.
It's a commodity. Contractors buy wood because it's cheap and they know how to use it. Trying to sell steel based on tensile strength is a losing battle in the residential market.
So she changed the conversation entirely. She didn't sell the steel, she attacked the wood.
Wood is mold food.
It's so visceral, isn't it? It makes you look at your own walls and shudder.
It really does. It turns a construction material decision into a health decision.
Right. Do you want to build your house out of food for fungus, or do you want to protect your children?
And that is the essence of understanding user needs. The user doesn't care about the frame. The user cares about safety, longevity, and health. She found the emotional hook.
This brings us to the methodology they're using to find these hooks. Design thinking. I feel like this term gets thrown around in corporate seminars a lot, but Dr. Maxwell broke it down into that classic Venn diagram. Desirability, feasibility, viability.
The Holy Trinity. And the reason it's a Venn diagram is that those three things are usually at war with each other.
And we usually start with feasibility, right? Can I build it?
Engineers always start there. Is it physically possible? And then business students start with viability. Can we make a profit?
But Maxwell's adamant, you have to start with desirability. Do humans want this?
Because if the answer to that is no, the other two circles just don't matter.
You can build a feasible, viable machine that punches people in the face. It works, and it's cheap.
Then nobody wants it.
Unless you're running a very specific type of gym. But let's look at the Cerit project, Dr. Maxwell's own electric microcar. This was the case study for how desirability completely wrecks your assumptions.
This story is fantastic because it shows that even the experts get it wrong until they talk to users. The engineering team assumed two things.
Yeah, let me guess. It needs to be fast, and it needs a huge battery range.
Common sense, right? Who buys a slow electric car with no range?
Exactly.
Well, campus administrators, they went to sell this thing to York University, and the admin said, whoa, 50 kilometers an hour? No way. Our liability insurance will kill us. Cap it at 25.
So the better performance was actually a deal breaker.
And then the battery. The team wanted a 100-kilometer range, but when they tracked the actual usage of campus security guards, they drove, on average, 2 kilometers a day.
2. You could walk that
Almost. So putting a massive battery in the car was just forcing the customer to pay for capacity they would never, ever use.
So they cut the battery in half.
And saved $1,000 per unit. That is massive for viability.
But the part that really stuck with me, and this is almost like a detective story moment, was the Dutch police.
Oh, the dead man switch.
They showed a Sarret to the police in the Netherlands. And the cops asked for a feature that nobody in the lab had ever thought of.
Not in a million years.
They said, if the officer runs 10 meters away from the car needs to shut down automatically.
Now, if you're brainstorming in a boardroom, you're thinking about sirens, gun racks, maybe bulletproof glass. Why on earth would you want the car to die when you walk away?
I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe so it doesn't roll away.
You'd think. But the reality is much more stressful. The cops explain that when they chase a suspect, they jump out of the car and run.
And in the heat of the moment, they leave the keys in the ignition.
And the bad guy's friend jumps in and steals the police car.
Wow.
Exactly. It's a theft prevention feature for a very specific high-stress scenario. You cannot logic your way to that feature. You have to sit in a room with a Dutch cop and ask, what sucks about your job?
That leads us to the biggest mental model of the week. The distinction between painkillers and vitamins.
This is the framework that separates the hobbies from the businesses.
I feel like I know the basic definition, but I want to dig into why entrepreneurs lie to themselves about this.
It's the most common delusion we see. So a painkiller solves a burning, immediate problem. The customer is in the pharmacy clutching their head. They don't care about the brand, the color of the box, or even the price, really. They just want the pain to stop.
They're already looking for a solution. You don't have to sell them on the problem.
Correct. Now, a vitamin is a nice to have. Take this, and in 20 years, your bones might be slightly stronger.
The customer feels fine right now.
Right. To sell a vitamin, you have to educate them, you have to scare them about the future, convince them to change their behavior. It is exhausting work.
But every founder thinks their idea is a painkiller. Oh, my app helps you organize your sock drawer. That's a painkiller.
And that's where the reality check hits. If you have to spend 20 minutes explaining why I should care, you're selling a vitamin.
Maxwell told that great story about the car phone in 1986 to illustrate how you can flip the script.
Right. So young Andrew Maxwell wants a car phone. In 1986, this is a giant brick bolted to the floor costing thousands of dollars.
And his boss says no. It's a toy. It's a vitamin. You just want to look cool.
And honestly, the boss was probably right. Until Maxwell had that disaster trip to Sudbury. He drives 4 hours to a construction site.
And the guy he's meeting isn't there.
Went home sick. So that's 8 hours of driving and a full day of salary completely wasted.
Ouch.
So he comes back to the boss and says, if I had that phone, I would have called ahead. I would have saved the company money.
He stopped selling the cool tech.
And started selling loss prevention. He turned the vitamin, which was convenience, into a painkiller, which was wasted money.
And that's the lesson. Sometimes your product is a vitamin. But if you find the right use case, like the Sarret for the Dutch police, it becomes a painkiller. You have to find the headache.
Yeah.
We're seeing a new tool enter this process now, which is AI. The class is using ChatGPT heavily, not just to write code, but to actually generate these use cases.
It's co-creation, and it's changing the fundamental skill set of the entrepreneur.
How so?
Well, in the old days, the bottleneck was creativity. You'd stand at a whiteboard and try to brainstorm 10 ideas. What can we do with this robot? And maybe you come up with 3.
Now, you feed the specs into a GPT and say, give me 50 potential markets for this robot, and it spits them out in 10 seconds.
So the bottleneck isn't generating ideas anymore. Ideas are now free. They are instant.
So the bottleneck is judgment.
Judgment. It's the role of the editor versus the writer.
Okay.
The AI will give you 50 ideas, and 45 of them will be hallucinations or just terrible business models. Use this robot to perform eye surgery. No bad AI.
Use this robot to walk dogs. Maybe.
The human skill shifts from I can come up with an idea to I can look at this list of chaos and spot the one diamond.
Yeah.
You have to have the domain expertise to filter the hallucination from the innovation.
This brings up a provocative thought to end on. If AI can generate the idea, does the value of having an idea just drop to zero?
I think it does. I think we are moving into an era where I have an app idea is a workless sentence. The value is entirely in the validation, the selection, and the execution. We are all becoming curators.
It connects back to that Dewey quote we started with. We learn from reflecting on experience. The AI provides the raw material, the simulated experience, but the human has to do the reflecting.
If you don't reflect, you're just drowning in AI-generated noise.
That is a daunting place to leave it, but also kind of exciting. The tools are better, but the human judgment is more critical than ever.
Absolutely. The bar has been raised.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time for Week 5.
Keep reflecting.